A major concern is that young people who never experienced apartheid appear to be the angriest of all.
The younger generation seemingly does not have confidence or has lost confidence in the credibility of the older generation. There is a sense that the older generation, through the culture of compromise, has in a way invalidated black anger.
I keep on thinking that I was an example of exactly what was wrong in the past.
Wolf Meyer was the chief negotiator for the National Party pre-1994.
The young people of today are pointing fingers at your generation, saying that the deal was not fair, the economic structure of apartheid still exists, and they have therefore become angrier. And they're almost in a way disappointed by what happened on their behalf. What's your response to their anger?
I think that's an unfair analysis. What we did was to deal with the problems as they were at the time. And we had addressed the question of economic imbalances by means of what is in the Constitution. We provided specifically for affirmative action, black economic empowerment, land redistribution, etc. Those provisions are in the Constitution, so it is not as if it was neglected. What had to be followed up from the Constitution that we agreed on in 1996 was the implementation of policies. And I think the shortcomings that we're seeing today rest with the policies that were either not properly developed or not implemented. And I think land redistribution is a very specific case in point as far as that is.
The anger, I think, is being expressed as disappointment in the promise of democracy. It's also shown a light on the absence of leadership, so that we can be shepherded into a discussion that leads us to solutions, rather than politicians jumping in the mud with us and playing victim themselves.
What was the point that you were making there?
A response like this isn't helpful.
With time, people have tended to exaggerate the issue of racism. But they say South Africa is still a racist country. Not true. We defeated racism.
The president should be saying two things. The first is that we need a new foundation premised on values, not just a constitution, but very specific values which inform our collective and individual actions in dealing with one another, and that he himself takes responsibility for things he might have said in the past that demonstrate his own prejudices. So he must demonstrate his own fallibility, and that he is going on a journey together with us of self-transformation, and therefore a transformation of society. The second thing he needs to say is that this journey itself comes with difficulties and challenges and sacrifices that we have to make in terms of our own personal and collective interests, because we want to build a better society. The obstacle he has is that he generally is not believable. And so we have a deadlock.
When we don't actually talk about black anger, about the issues of racism itself, then we actually lose the opportunity to contextualize what is happening, and especially the racial hierarchy economically in South Africa.
The problem is we moved from transcendental leadership with Nelson Mandela. There were instances where Thabo Mbeki occupied that place, and I believe kind of did it well, but also instances where he lost his bearings within that same space and climbed in. What is needed is consistent truth-telling about our past and present from the same leaders, combined with a unifying message and set of actions. And that's what we miss.
Leadership from within the white community needs to emerge as well. Yes, the government, the state that we have is our government for all of us. But voting patterns seem to suggest that black people tend to listen more to black leaders and white people tend to listen more to white leaders.
I think the current generations must stand up and produce their own leaders. Like I had the benefit in the early 1990s of being a leader of that generation in my community, to stand up, to be, if I may say so, courageous, do certain things, speak out, take the lead, and produce a settlement. And I think people of this age and generation should do exactly the same.
In the lead up to our democracy, leaders like Wolf Meyer and Cyril Ramaphosa, who drafted our constitution, displayed the unity we were striving for. One thing is certain, we are not the only ones grappling with the issue of race.
USA speak about racism more than everyone else, which is interesting. South Africa only registers at 13%. Within this conversation. Racism. But this is on Twitter.
This is a universal thing that we have to address. The universal thing of inequality based on superiority versus inferiority. And the same you would see in Europe. So my point is that I think we have to start a real serious national debate where people can realize this is not only, changing that mindset is not only an intellectual thing. It's also coming from the heart and the soul. And that is what we have to address. And I think too many people have said, when we changed the constitution, when we agreed to settlement in the 1990s, they said it's fine. It was an intellectual exercise and it's over. But unfortunately, we didn't follow through with our hearts and our minds. And I think this is really what needs to be addressed today. And leadership from all sectors have to come. Political, business, and civil society. And I think when we say there's an absence of leadership in the country today, which is true, absolutely true, it affects all three of those sectors.
Sadly, the intolerance of our past has spilled over into other aspects of society.
If you are a black, poor, gay, or transgender woman, right, you are the most oppressed person in this country because you have to deal with historical racialized exclusion, you have to deal with white racism, you have to deal with male chauvinism in your community, you have to deal with traditionalism and religious conservatism, you have to deal with misogyny, and you have to deal with all sorts of prejudices against you. When we characterize the task that we have in terms of a bogus ranking of prejudices where racism is the superior prejudice that takes precedence over all others, we become hypocrites. And therefore, we never get to resolve the fundamental reasons why our society is unjust and so unequal.
After the break, the worst performing matrics in the country tell us why they aren't to blame.